I'm 45 years old, man. There's a lot of going on.
It's a great night to be a Tiger. I'm here with my family.
Come on, man.
Juwan Dixon.
We're all taking receipts on all the people who continually mock and say that we ain't going to do anything. I'm taking receipts.
So, college football is, as I mentioned earlier in the show, NASCAR point of view, or any racing for that matter. We have rounded the last turn, and the checkered flag waving is in sight. So college football is coming towards an end here, and very exciting finish for some of these conferences as we try to figure out what the college football playoff is going to look like, as well as the conference championship. So the one major conference that has their conference championship set is the SEC, surprisingly. And no, it's not Alabama. Instead, it's going to be Georgia versus LSU. Alabama, looking back at it, that crucial loss to LSU really hurt them. And LSU takes that and then goes on and beats Arkansas, and that'll about do it, as that will give them a spot in the SEC championship game. So Georgia and LSU will play each other in the SEC championship. That is set. But looking back at the SEC, honestly, what a great season it really was in the regular season, as Tennessee put up about as good of a fight as you could have really hoped for. And, again, that was, a lot of people want to see kind of a, the way college basketball does a conference tournament. Some people want to see like the top four teams in each conference do that for their conference championship in football. Well, I mean, hey, you pretty much got that, right? It was Tennessee and Georgia a couple weeks ago, and it was Alabama and LSU a couple weeks ago. That was your first round, and, well, now it's going to be Georgia and LSU. So there you have it. Ole Miss also made things exciting, just unfortunate for them that they were unable to beat the necessary opponents they needed to in a very, very competitive SEC this season. The American Athletic Conference, it maybe not the most exciting conference in football, but they got some teams. Last year, Cincinnati was in the college football playoff. And, a few years, you usually have a team or two in the rankings, top 25. Tulane, Cincinnati, and UCF are all tied for first place at 5-1. And this week, Tulane has a big game against SMU that's going to have a lot of implications on American Athletic Conference title, on who's going to make it there. And, Cincinnati, they're all right this season. They're pretty decent. Like, they're But honestly, I feel like just looking back at it and looking at each of those three teams, Tulane has to beat SMU this week, right? No doubt about that. But if they do, I'm pretty confident in saying that we're going to see a rematch of Tulane and UCF as they played this past week. And I think we'll see them go toe-to-toe for the American Athletic Championship game. The ACC, pretty clear-cut, I think, in my book. Clemson, North Carolina. I know Duke is up there in the West standings. Or not West, but whatever they call it, Coastal, Pacific, or not Pacific. There's the Atlantic, and then there's the Coastal. I know Duke is up there on their side of the ACC, excuse me. And I know Florida State is making a strong case to overtake Clemson, but I just don't think there's enough games left on the schedule for anything realistic to really happen there. So I think we're going to see Clemson, North Carolina in the championship game, and it's going to be one of those games that I don't think it's going to be necessarily exciting, and then I think Clemson's going to kind of squeak one out, which I'm not a fan of because I'm kind of done with Clemson, honestly. Kind of like Toy Story, where Andy takes Woody and just kind of drops him. He's like, I'm done playing with you. that's kind of me with Clemson. I'm just kind of done with them. I think the hype for me on the Clemson train is just over. I'm just done. The Big 12, honestly, for once, the Big 12 is exciting this season. Gotta say. I know they had a little while where football wasn't exactly very exciting in the Big 12, and this year, a little bit of a change. You know, in the past, it's been kind of Oklahoma and Baylor and maybe Oklahoma and Texas, and that was kind of it, with Oklahoma taking the cake at the end of the day. This year, a little different. Interesting. TCU ranked 4th. They'll probably be ranked 4th in the newest playoff rankings tonight. And then you've got Kansas State at 2nd place in the Big 12 with a 5-2 conference record. And then you've got a little bit of a logjam at 3rd place with Oklahoma State, Baylor, and Texas all at 4-3 conference records. So, you know, Captain Obvious here, but it's going to come down to the last couple weeks and, you know, some weird tie-breaking scenarios. And, you know, I think Kansas State, honestly, I'm not very impressed by them. They're kind of an up and down, inconsistent team. Like, they're good, don't get me wrong, but they're not consistent enough for me to. It's just, again, like, sure, they've had great games. They've had awesome games. But they've also had games that made me look at them and say, I don't know. It's kind of Al Michaels. Not really sure. Like, it's just, I don't know. There's something about them that I'm not buying. And it's not something that they can really change because I've seen it. I've seen enough. You know, and I think Oklahoma State could very easily overtake 2nd place. But I think the problem, I know the problem for them is that Kansas State blew them out of the water when those two teams played. So Kansas State has the tiebreaker. And Baylor and Texas, kind of dark horse underdog type, you know, candidates for the Big 12 championship. And, you know, I think Kansas State might hold on to it by the hair of their chinny chin chin. And if so, I still think that TCU is going to win the Big 12 this year. Speaking of logjam, let's get into the Big 10. The entire Big 10 is in one big logjam right now, both the East and the West. Michigan and Ohio State are in a very tense fight for first place in the East, and it's without a doubt going to come down to the last game of the regular season between those two teams. This year, I believe it's going to be in Columbus. And at this point, I couldn't tell you whether or not I think Ohio State or Michigan's going to win. And just maybe just the sheer fact that it's at Ohio State, maybe that gives, that definitely gives Ohio State the advantage. But I don't know, old turkey gobble gobble Jim Harbaugh might pull another rabbit out of his hat and maybe come up with something interesting there. But historically speaking, probably not, as Ohio State has dominated that rivalry. And then the West, logjam, more like a, I don't know, it's bigger than a log. A building jam? I don't even know. It's like Times Square in the Big 10 West. Purdue, Illinois, Iowa, and Minnesota are all tied for first place. Now, Purdue right now is in first place due to the tiebreakers and all that stuff, but with 2 games left, it's going to be interesting. Let's just say that. The Purdue win over Illinois was huge because if Illinois won that game, not only, you know, would they have the tiebreaker over Purdue if the, you know, whatever happens in the last 2 games, but also that would put Illinois at a game above the pack. So, you know, I have to look at the schedule here. I mean, Illinois playing, I believe they play Michigan this week. That's not helping their chances right there. So, you know, Purdue might make the Big 10 championship in football, which kind of weird to think about. Minnesota has a chance. Again, they blew it as they lost to Purdue earlier in the season. And Iowa, how in the world is Iowa even in this conversation right now? It's crazy. And I think if Illinois is going to make any shot at going to the Big Ten championship, this week against Michigan is a must-win. Absolutely a must-win for Illinois. And just kind of the way that the chips are falling here, it seems like Purdue is going to go to the Big Ten championship, which is just odd. Because I believe they only have to win one game, right? I haven't looked at the standings. I looked at the standings. I haven't looked at the tiebreaker scenarios, but it's going to be, in my book, between Purdue and Illinois versus either Michigan or Ohio State. Again, there's that thing. You want the top four teams to kind of, Final Four their way. Kind of like the college football playoff. A lot of people want that for conference championships. You got it between Ohio State and Michigan. You have it right there. So you got what you wanted. It's just part of the regular season and not an official postseason thing. So tonight at 9 o'clock or so, the college football playoff rankings will come out, and I don't think you're going to see too much change. I know that that Georgia's going to be number 1. I think Ohio still is going to be at 2, Michigan at 3, TCU at 4, Tennessee I think is going to stick at 5, and then LSU is going to go up to 6. USC up to 7, Alabama 8, 9, Oregon, and 10, Clemson. That's my top 10 college football playoff rankings. So we'll see how that goes down there.